Hey there, members of the Graveyard, and welcome back to our 9th Monster Hunter Wilds Beginner Weapon Guide series video, where we will be covering the Charge Blade. Now, Monster Hunter Wilds only 6 days away. I can't wait. And there's a bunch of important logistical information they usually say right here, but it's all in the description of the video if you care. But just know this is the beta, not the final version. There will be changes from this version to the final version, and I'll be updating these if there's like substantial changes or anything like that. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. I think learning weapons in this game is very important. It's very important to understand what your weapon can do. And to do that, we need to read, we need to learn, we need to study a little bit. Just a little bit, just an hour. An hour of your time is all it takes to fully grasp the entire complexity and the message and the meaning of these weapons. And if we don't take that dedicated time, we can easily trick ourselves into thinking that we know everything, that we have it all understood, that every intricate interaction of the weapon and the monsters and all of that, we've got it. But no, you might not, because there's a lot, and there's a lot of new stuff for you returning hunters. So let's get into this weapon breakdown and see if we can unfold the secrets of this weapon. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is how we can talk about it, right? We need to learn how we can talk about it. So in order to do that, we got to go to weapon controls, because I can't just start saying phrases and terms and all this sort of stuff. We need, if you thought there wasn't enough going on with this weapon, well, there's a lot going on with this weapon. So we're going to go ahead and talk about attacks that blocked. So there are certain points in this weapon's moveset that have attacks that at certain moments during the attack, they will perform a block. These are called guard points. Across the Monster Hunter community, we usually refer to them as guard points. We will be touching on not all of them, just a few, because again, this is for beginners. We don't want to overload you, but this is a very intermediate to high level thing that Charge Blade players like to do once they get comfortable with certain monsters. Now, we will have the charge gauge, which will be these... how do we say? Attacking with the sword will short energy. I just want to make sure I understand what it's trying to say. Yeah, so the charge gauge will be a color. There'll be this row of the picture will be like a file or like a jar. They will glow a certain color, and that will dictate how much we will generate when we load it into our shield. We'll get into that later. Elemental boost is when we put our files into our shield, making our shield stronger. Sword boost mode is when we charge up our sword, and all of this information is displayed up in the top left via pictures. It's not really explained via words unless you come here. Power axe mode, there will be a symbol of an axe that will glow when we have charged it up. Various ways to acquire this. Charge attack is when we hold our B button, and then we have files. Files are a main mechanic of this entire weapon. We'll discuss it later. Just know I'll be saying some of these things, and if I change what I'm calling them, then I'll let you know that there's just another word that most people who play this game call it. So elemental boost is usually just shield boost. Elemental boost is a new thing. Let me just get my notes in order here. I don't yap for too long. This will be a long one compared to most weapon guide videos, but that's because we're getting deep. And I guarantee that you will learn something that other weapon guides maybe didn't cover. So first, this weapon has 2 modes, right? We can get to the other mode by, in our sword stance, we can hit right trigger and Y to swap. And we can do that kind of quick. It's 2 separate inputs, but you can almost hit them simultaneously, and it'll swap. More on the axe mode later. So when we are in sword mode, when we hit with our sword, let's just use our standard YYY combo. After enough hits, I want you to pay attention to the top left. What used to be gray is now flashing white. So what do we do with this? This means our sword is charging. Now, to charge our to get files. That's what we will be doing. We are getting files. We put our sword into the shield with this cool little animation, and now you can see that they're filled in with white. We'll talk about what exactly that means in a little bit. Let's keep talking about charging our sword up. So, as we hit the monster, and the preferred method of charging the files that I like to do, and that a lot of people like to do, is you fully charge the B attack. Now, you have to do this in a specific timing. We just hold it for too long, it kind of just does this weak slash that does nothing. So now that we've hit the monster a lot, you'll notice that the color is now red and flashing. Well, what happens if I keep hitting it? Ooh, now it's blinking at me very aggressively with deeper red, and now I've got too much charge in my sword. It's going to explode. So we need to dump this charge into... We need to dump the charge into the shield. So it's in the shield. That's where it's stored with our files loaded, but our shield is not charged. As you can see, we have a sword symbol, a shield symbol, and an axe symbol in the top left. And they're all kind of faded out in gray. So the manual way to charge our shield is after we hit right trigger B, we hold the B button, and you'll notice all of our files are going to disappear and go into our shield. Now our shield is amped and it's glowing. This makes it better. It makes our guarding better, and it is very important to the weapon. We want to make sure that our shield is charged at all times because it gives us access to a stronger guard, and it gives us access to our... Well, now just kind of, before I get too far in, I want to go over that this is kind of the loop that you do to charge. You hold the B, let go right when it flashes, hit Y, hold B, or for a little quicker, like if there's a little faster opening, you do this, shield bump by hitting, we call it the shield bump. I call it the shield bump. Heard other people call it that too. We can do shield thrust. Now you'll notice our files look a little crazy right now. They look like they're overflowing, and that is because we can overcharge our files. We can load more into our files to make them overcharged. What does overcharging them do? It just makes them stronger. It makes them better. We'll discuss what they do in a little bit. Let's keep talking about the sword for a second here. So we have some moves that we can do. We have a standard YYY combo that ends in this roundhouse slash. We can slash side hop. That's dodging immediately after an attack. And if we keep hitting the A button after the side hop, we will go into a roll. Now, the roundhouse can be performed consecutively by just slashing side hop, and the roundhouse is a pretty decent hitting move. You'll just kind of have to play around with it to see the moments that you actually use it, and when you don't, there's just thousands of scenarios. But just don't forget about it, because it is a pretty good way to do damage while kind of like remaining safe. You just want little singular, if you only have like a moment for a singular touch, and we're trying to charge our files, build the file charge, and then load them into the shield, it's a good way to do it. We now have a repositioning tool called the Fade Slash. Now the Fade Slash, by holding forward and B at the same time. Now, it can't be done until you've attacked. So it's kind of like you took a swing, the monster went over there, and now we're going to kind of like reposition ourselves. The only real movement option that we have from standing completely still is our forward slash, which is done by hitting X or Y and B. So those are kind of like this is a gap closer. The monster is a little far away. We can do this, do a little shield bump, go into our charge, roundhouse. We can do another one, what have you. And that's what happens if you also let go too early. You just do this singular like little, it's not that great. So make sure you're getting your timings down, and don't always go for the loop. Assess the situation and see if you have time for another loop, or if you just need to take what you have and charge it into your shield. Now, the shield charge, that little glowing shield icon, will last longer depending upon how many files we have. And I think the longest duration we get is just by loading 5 files, whether they are overcharged or not. It's hard to test that right now. I can't tell the difference between if you charge overcharged files or just normal files, but 5 files usually makes the shield charge last for its longest duration. If you only put 3, the duration will be much shorter. Now, there's one more thing that we can charge, and that is by hitting right trigger and B. We hold Y, and we need to hold this until we see that clank of the shield. I'll do it one turn again. We hold, wait for the clank, and then we release. Now, this charges our sword, and now we're going to talk about files. So this puts our file effect on our sword. See how now when I hit with my sword, there's this little after explosion? We have what are called impact files. Impact files do damage and generate stun value, meaning that if we keep hitting the monster on the head with our files, we will knock the monster out, and it will take a little nap for a little while, and we can beat on it while it's helpless and on the ground. And that's basically all it does. It, I actually think it might prevent bouncing as well. But again, that's like kind of a little bit something that you don't really need to like worry about as a beginner, like what bouncing means. It is important, but just know that you don't always need it charged. This attack, I think, also has bounce prevention. The charged slash has bounce prevention. There are certain parts on monsters that are dense, and you can like kind of like bounce your weapon, kind of like when our sword was full, we were bouncing off of it. Certain monsters' attacks can make our weapons bounce. So there will be monsters that you will fight that have harder parts than others that you might want to make sure that your sword is kind of always charged up so that it doesn't bounce. But again, I actually want to just make sure that that's what it does. I don't want to be giving away wrong information here. Probably should have tested this beforehand, but I didn't think about it until I started doing this guy. So sword boost mode, yes, and your weapons will not be deflected, so we were right about that. Good, always check. Never assume that you were correct. Always check if it is fuzzy in our mind. So now that we have talked about that, we've gone over our shield bump. Again, this kind of is just an attack that helps loop us. It also, if our shield is charged, it will apply an extra effect. It will apply our file effect. See how there are these little explosions happening when it's amped up? So that will apply our file effect to the spot. So if we have a nice moment to get on the monster's head and we need to build file charges, we've boosted our sword, assumedly, and then we can just kind of keep doing attacks. And this could be a fast way to knock out the monster, as we have just shown. That is our dear Wagon Chan being knocked out. So now that we've talked about how to charge our shield, charge our sword, we now need to talk about the amplified discharge. So we're going to charge our shield again. There's actually another way to charge our shield that I'll talk about in a second. But we're going to do it the way that we know how. So shield boost, and now we need to go get files. Load the files. Now we can, after a shield bump, we can hit YB again. This will cause us to do an amped elemental discharge. This spins one of our files. This is very important. It's good for medium-sized openings, and it leads into a lot of other things. So I'll showcase it once again. We'll show a follow-up that you can do. You can hit B after this for a big swoop around. Big opening for big damage. It's very good to get used to using this move. Now, there are a lot of ways that we can access this move, and we'll cover it later. But just know that after using a shield bump, you can hit Y and B together. And this will leave you in axe mode. Keep that in mind. You will not return to shield mode. You will go to axe mode. You can morph straight back to shield mode after it. And now we'll talk about... We talked about the amp. Talked about the amp's follow-up. Now we need to go... There's another thing. One more attack. And that is, after an amp, we can, instead of hitting B, we can hit another Y and B. And that will be our super amped elemental discharge. Now, I do believe that to do our super amped elemental discharge, not the amped elemental discharge, but I do believe we need our shield charged in order to have access to that. Now, I want to talk about this last move because it is important. Because as you saw, that super amplified discharge, we slam our axe down, we move forward a lot. And depending on our file type, the explosion pattern of the files that come out of our weapon will be very different. So if we want it all to be on certain parts of the monster, we kind of need to space ourselves properly so that the files land in the right position. So after we do an attack, we can hit back and Y. And here's how to do it kind of like an application. Because you don't want to over whiff your attack because your axe is very long. So right now, if we were to do this point blank, the axe would hit near the back end of the monster and most of the files would whiff because the file explosion goes out in a straight line. So if the axe lands at the back of the monster and then the files explode, all the files will miss the monster. So if we have some files, let's say we just knocked out the monsters right in front of us, we can do a slash, slide back, then bump our shield. Now we have a better lineup on the monster. A little intermediate, little advanced in my opinion, but just keep it in your mind somewhere. You'll remember once you start to see, because as we see, I'll aim it this way, it explodes in a line from where our axe lands. So if the axe lands at the back of the monster, the explosion line will go to nowhere and you'll miss. So you want to make sure that your spacing is correct when you're doing that super amplified elemental discharge. Ooh, lot to cover. That's the sword and shield mode for now. Let's go into talking about our axe mode. Now, our axe has a standard double Y that just kind of loops on itself. It also has a B attack that, again, loops on itself. So you do have access to your elemental discharge when your shield isn't amped, but we just want to make sure that we are keeping our shield charged because it's just better. Everything goes smoothly when this thing is operating the way that it should be. So when we have files, let's go ahead and get some. Again, right trigger Y to swap into the weapon, and we hit with our axe mode. You see how we are kind of spending vials as we swing the axe? Spending one vial for each axe attack. Now that second swing it's 2 hits, but it's 2 button presses. Or, sorry, the other way around. It's 2 hits, but 1 button press. So we have our Y, we have our B. Now there's three things that I want to kind of discuss. We have 2 ways to advance forward with this weapon. We have holding forward in Y. We just hold Y with, if we just hit, or hitting Y, sorry. If we just hit Y without any direction, we'll just do a rising slash. If we want to close the gap on the monster, we need to hold forward. Now, hitting B does this like little stationary slash. If we hold forward in B, we still get this like little run up. So keep in mind to like close the gap on the monster if it's too far away with either Y or B. Those are good options. Keep those in mind. We also have, after any attack, it can be after a B or a Y, we can hit back Y to do a fade slash. And again, this is important for our positioning. Say that knocked a monster out. We now want to get better positioning for our amplified elemental discharge. And then our follow-up attack. So it's good for spacing. It's also good to just, we're kind of slow in our axe mode. You have access to a good roll, but it's an option for evasion and reposition. Now, one more thing about repositioning is that if we hold the left or to the right, we can do lateral fade slashes to kind of reposition ourselves. Then again, hitting back Then we have forward. And we can kind of, we're actually quite mobile with this out. Now we can't, the only way I think, don't think, you can't do the same direction. Just wanted to make sure I was right about this. So you can go left and right, but you can't go twice in the same direction. You will then just do a normal rising slash. But what you can do is do that into a backstep. So, lots of movement options that we have when we are in our axe mode. So, we've covered our sword, we've covered our axe, we have a kind of an understanding of how they kind of operate together. We generate files in sword and shield, we spend them to charge our shield, and then we spend them on our axe moves. There is one more way to charge the shield, which I will now talk about, now that we have an understanding of that. So, charge the shield, elemental boost, get some more files, just get 3. 3 is good enough to example this. So again, we do an attack, shield bump, and then we'll be doing our elemental discharge. Now, we'll hit right trigger during this, and that right there dumps all the files into your shield and charges your shield. And that's also a good way to be like, I'm going for it. Ooh, that situation actually doesn't look good. And you can kind of cancel it with the right trigger, leaving you in your sword and shield mode, which then hopefully, whatever situation you saw that you didn't like, you have enough time to hold block. Now, this is something that, again, these guard points, they are very advanced. I'm not going to do too much demonstrating of it. I'll just let you know that is a possibility. So every time you swap this weapon, I'll do my best to kind of just let you know, your shield turns white when you swap. See right there, it's white. In those moments, you can block. You will block automatically. It's very hard to do. So you can almost use swapping to axe mode as a parry by hitting right trigger and Y at an opportune moment. This will initiate a guard point, which then you can do your Y and B immediately after. It's tricky. It's very tricky. I don't remember I don't recommend focusing too much time on this. There are other ones, but for now, those 2 will be enough to get you started. But take your time, set the wagon to smash, and maybe play around with it for a little bit. But I find that it is a more intermediate to advanced technique that for it to have actual practical usage and have payoff instead of you focusing on it for the entire hunt and the hunt taking 30 to 40 minutes. So now you're going to go into our focus mode. I'm going to... Yeah, let's go into our focus mode just real quick. But I also wanted to talk about our perfect block as well. So I'm going to set this to smash mode. We're going to turn the wounds on while we're at it. Apply the changes. So our perfect block, we can block, right? So there's normal blocking. We just hold the right trigger. Now we can do almost all of our standard options out of that in just normal sword and shield mode. But the big reason why perfect blocking is very important for this weapon is because it gives us access to our savage axe mode, which turns our axe into a buzzsaw. Now we want to make sure we maintain this mode because it is very, very strong. Now what changes? We have savage axe mode. Now what? Our axes essentially become a hair clipper. And when we hold the button for our attacks in axe mode, it does this multi hit. No, please face the right way. It does this multi hit. And it also will use files at the same time. Now you'll notice when we spend a file, sorry, messed it up there. Back to Savage Axe, and you can hold the button down when we swap to it. Now, when we used an amped elemental discharge, we'll notice it only uses a half of a vial. You'll also notice that when we're swinging our weapon, it doesn't use any vials. This is why it's very important that we go for those perfect blocks and we hit the Y button to initiate. Now, after we've had access to that, we can go straight into our super elemental discharge after a perfect block. We can also... Oh, the wrong button. We're gonna see our wound popping ability here. This also gives us our Savage Axe mode, and this is like a buff. It lasts for a certain duration of time. So I'm gonna go for the block here. We can fade slash after that. We can go straight into a charge slash. Thank you, Wagon Chen, for being patient with me. And you can also, I think that's it actually. So you have options after the perfect guard, but the one to note is mainly that you can do your Y plus B, your big elemental discharge, immediately after a perfect block, and you can also do your Savage Axe. Now you can cancel the big charge because maybe we blocked an attack that doesn't give it a big enough opening. You can hit Y plus B, and you can hit back and Y. You can hit back and Y to cancel it and turn it into a normal one. We actually didn't have our shield charge there. We'll go ahead, gain access to our files, charge the sword up a little bit. We will go ahead and load the files, then go for the perfect block here. So you see how it's initiating? We then can hit, and it even shows up as the command that you did it right. You can hit back and Y. Do not do the super amped elemental discharge and cancel it into an amped discharge. So that is our 3 charged modes covered. We have our sword charge, our shield charge, and our axe. A lot to take in. So now we're going to close here on the focus mode. Just some tips. There are certain weapons that you kind of don't want to be in focus mode all the time, and then there's some weapons where you do kind of want to be. I like to be in focus mode basically all the time when I'm in sword and shield because it keeps me centered towards the monster, and I like to go for perfect blocks. I like to go for perfect blocks a lot. Now, if you are more of a roller, perfect blocks kind of do require some finesse, but if you're a roller, I recommend not staying in focus mode because as you can see, if you're not facing forward with your camera, you do not have access to your roll in focus mode. But if we're not in focus mode, we can kind of roll every direction. Find out what playstyle suits you. I like to face the monster at all times when I'm in sword and shield, and I like to go for those big juicy power blocks, perfect blocks, and do moves after them from the openings that they create. Because as you can see, when we normal block, we kind of get stuck in pushback, but when you perfect block, you can immediately go into big damage. That's the stuff that I like to go for. You can do either one. I think that in axe mode, with the focus mode, you always have access to your roll. Now, I will say the forward roll, you have like the side roll. It is a tad bit shorter than the normal roll, but in terms of invincibility frames, meaning that when you are rolling, you cannot be damaged during certain windows, it feels like the invincibility frames are the same. Again, I don't really have the tools to test that right now. So take that for what you will. Another thing about focus mode and axe mode is that it is a lot easier to steer our attacks when we are in focus mode, as we have a higher positional agency over our character for certain moves. As you can see, when I'm doing my Y combo, I can spin pretty good, but if we take it off, no matter how much I spin my camera, I can't really spin, and I'll even go into other attacks. So keep that in mind. If the monster falls over on your first attack, you can go in the focus mode and use Y to realign yourself. You can also turn yourself while you're doing your amped elemental discharges, which is very good. In fact, it's almost too good. It was one of the main weaknesses of this weapon, that you needed to have the perfect lineup and the perfect opportunity to do your amped elemental. But as you can see, I could be facing over here, crank it over to the right. Focus mode, very good. One of the best things they've ever added to this game, in my opinion, once you get used to it. We can also, in our sword mode, our YYY combo, we turn. We can almost make a complete 360 during our YYY combo. We can also steer our directional slash more, and in axe mode, we can steer our forward attacks a lot. We can start over here, whip it over to the right, come over here, whip it over to the right, or to the left. So take some time, play around in focus mode. Pay attention to the things that you can realign and not realign. It will help you in your hunting experience. It will help you land all those juicy hits when you have those big openings and not do any embarrassing whiffs off to the left or to the right. So the last thing to discuss is the wound pop. And I usually talk about this first, but we need to understand how a lot of our weapon works in order to understand why the wound pop is good. So after a wound pop, we go into savage mode, and we can hold that with Y to make it longer. As you can see, we heard all those hits with it. So let's do another one. Let's not hold the Y button. See how much shorter it is. Okay, it's actually the same. I thought it was longer when you held the button. Learn something new. Always check. But this will give us our axe. This will give us our axe mode. Now, we can do things after that, but they're not unique to getting the wound pop. We can just do everything that we can normally do standing completely still after a wound pop. So the wound pop could put the monster in a bad position, which we can then immediately follow up with the discharge, and then we do the B follow-up. So we can do, it is again important to note, you can do your normal discharge without your shield being charged. But you can't do the super elemental discharge without the shield being charged. So keep that in mind. At least, let's make sure I'm not a liar. Yes, we cannot do the super elemental discharge without the shield being charged. All right, wow. I think we're good. We've covered our repositioning attacks, we've covered our rolls, our block options. We kind of touched on guard points. You know what? I'm going to, maybe, I don't know how long we'll be here. Maybe I get it first try, but I'll kind of showcase what a guard point is. So we go for the swap and we block. And then after that, we can do an elemental discharge. And the same thing with the, it's kind of hard doing the axe into shield mode, but we'll try. Raise up. And we didn't do it because we took damage. Try one more time. As you can see, this is a tricky timing. Still didn't get it. So that one is a little tricky. I find going from the sword and shield to the axe mode guard point would be a lot easier. The other one is very tricky as you have to be very late into the animation. As you can see, the white doesn't show up for a very long time. See how long it takes for the white to flash? Meanwhile, the white flashes almost immediately when we do this one. Well, for all the people who have came here for just the full weapon breakdown, I hope you learned at least one thing going over all of the things that this weapon has to offer. And if you're heading out, leave a like if you liked the video and comment anything about Monster Hunter that you either like, dislike, excited about, whatever. And I'll catch you on the next one, maybe. But for those of us who are sticking around for the grimy, the real, the raw, the live footage of the Doshaguma hunt, where we could die, this could take 40 minutes, I don't know. I like people to have a realistic expectation of how a hunt should look when they are learning a weapon, are kind of familiar with the weapon, but they're not a pro with it. They're not an expert with it. So we're going to do good hunter practice, restock our items before we head out for hunts. We're then going to eat. But yeah, it's, you know, me, myself, I've watched like speed runs or like someone who's really good with a weapon. And then I go, hell yeah, I can do that. And then it doesn't go that way at all. And there are a lot of nuances and intricacies that go unexplained in a lot of these weapon guides that I've watched. And I know that people like faster videos and and if you're an experienced player, you don't really need a long video like this, but for a beginner, there's so much that does not get explained by this game that well at all. Now, I don't know if that's going to change with this game. I've heard they've worked on their new player experience, but I think that each weapon, yes, you can just literally read off the move list and go, cool, I get it now. There's so much, you're not even halfway done after reading the weapon moves, in my opinion. You can be a good learner, but I think that there's positivity to be gained, or so there's positive things to be gained by diving deep into the weapons, and that's kind of what I want to offer. So I'm gonna forget to start the hunt, even though there is one right there. I wanted to be in quest format. So we have traditional start to a quest. This is what it'll look like. You join a quest, you load it, you'll get this load screen. Go out with your friends and you'll be like, wow, I watched Graves' video and I'm now somewhat of a savant with this weapon that I've only used 3 to 4 times. And they're like, whoa, how did you do that? Go watch this guy's video. I know it's long, but it's worth it. You'll never have to watch another video ever again. About anything? About anything. Oh. So we're gonna poo these guys up. I know that they showcase the big poo bomb, but I kind of don't want the big poo bomb, because then I have to chase the Doshaguma himself. I'm gonna throw on my Ghillie Mantle so I can get a sneak attack. And we're off to the races. Gonna start here. He's just gonna miss me entirely. Gonna let him do his little merry-go-round attack. Now I have some experience on this monster, and I shouldn't have gone for that. So you can't always go, see, even if you get the perfect block, you need to make sure you're confirming if it's a good time to go for the amped up state. Okay. He's kind of going all over the place here. He missed again. That bite hit us. Very annoying. Try to find an opportunity to land some hits here. Being a little squirrely. Gonna go for that. I'm gonna chase him down. Hit the tail, but that's okay. Decent opening if we had capitalized it on a little better. Don't forget the charger shield. God, having a bit of a rough start here. Okay, we've initiated a power clash because we've landed some good blocks here. Let's just go into Savage Axe mode. We can also get Savage Axe mode out of the offset. Something that I did not mention. He keeps going after my cat at really inopportune moments. I'm gonna roll this. I'm gonna close the distance. Wait to see if we should follow it up. We can. Swap back to shield. Block. Take that moment. Get some cheeky damage here, maybe. We love cheeky free damage. Keep our weapon topped off. Hit this vitality after the sharpen. Heal up. We've got a vine trap I'll be taking advantage of here. Take this opportunity to get some good damage. Go into our Savage Axe mode. B button again. And I can kind of steer this. Go for the follow-up. He roared us out of it. Unfortunate. Swap back over to our shield. Load the files. Perfect block. He's going to do another thing. Take that opportunity to crank it. Roll out of the way here. Don't know how big of an opening we're getting here. Okay, he seems to be having a bad time with these guys. Now I'm going to take this opportunity to in-turn myself. Get some good buzz sawing here. Get that knockout. And then again, go for this. Hold the B button. Do a follow-up. Then I'm gonna just let him have it. Nice, good damage. 1, 2. Charge. Perfect block. Second one. Can kind of take that opportunity to do a second one. Didn't work out, but he went for a cat. Otherwise, we would have died. Not actually died, but... not actually died, but I like to say whenever I get hit with big attacks that I'm dead. Charge. Our shield charge is out, so we want to freshen up on that. Monster is very tired. Full charge. Buzzsaw. Some cheeky extra damage as he just kind of runs away. There's these little moments to keep getting free hits off on the monster when they've decided that they hate life. And they no longer want to be in your presence. And he's going for the boulders, which is good for us. Gonna drop the boulders on him. Have everything we need for a good opening here. So I'm going to do this. Lost our axe state, which sucks. Hopefully he hits us with an attack. We can get this back. That miss. Use our forward and Y. Have an opportunity here to use this. Again, I'm not going to be too obsessive with the spot that I'm hitting. Nice. That led to a knockout. Hold the button. Do the follow-up. And then now that he's finally getting a chance to stand up, I'm just gonna rip into him again. Again! Oh, he stopped us. Take this moment to keep spinning. If he wants us to have the moment, I'm gonna take it. Ow. Don't do that. Put my weapon away because I'm very scared. Oh, that was a good opportunity. I could have showed something. So you can actually interrupt those big attacks. Hopefully he does it again. Oh no. Mr. Doshaguma, you must stand up to play Monster Hunter. Gonna go for a wound pop. Probably should have waited for him to stand up. Let's go for another wound pop. Because why not? He's covered in them. So I'm gonna go for it. Wow, not great for him. Gonna charge my shield. Doing the cancel method. Get some more. Just enough to keep the pressure up. That's another wound that I want. Give me your wound, sir. Even if we miss, again, I could waste precious time repositioning myself to the head. I don't want to do that. And then not enough time for the big follow-up, so I'm just going to go for some stationary swipes here. Welcome to the barbershop. Oh, he is not happy. He is not happy at all. Could have done that on my secret. Could have chased after him. Now, I think the only thing I haven't really showcased is our charging up our sword. But again, as we said, that's kind of monster dependent. You don't need to always have your sword charged. It's kind of hard to remember, too, when you're new. Just making sure that we keep our axe charged. Actually, I'm going to do so we can get our files here off these individuals. Right. Get some juicy files. Now that we've given our boy some time to fall asleep, we are just in time. I'm going to take this opportunity to plant some bombs. Okay. Plant some bombs. We're going to leave a shock trap for him to run into later. Hopefully we don't take too long here. And we can, hopefully, this misses. And then, kaboom. And that's good hunting. I think I actually missed the hit. Oh, our trap. I love it when a hunt comes together. Make sure we have red for charging our shield back. Actually need a perfect block here from something. A little early on that. Took some pretty nasty chip damage from blocking that big attack. I guess if we can't have access to our charged axe, that is a good time to consider... Ooh. That is a good time to consider charging your sword. The monster's not giving you any opportunities to kind of charge your... to get your Savage Axe. I'm going to go and hold that. We can take that time to get overcharged files. Now, see that little red thing right there? I messed up so bad. So there's a little red glowing spot on the monster when they do big attacks. It doesn't look like a wound, but the scout flies, little green, these like little green flies that kind of like highlight everything. Oh my God, let me finish what I'm trying to say. Gotta get rid of you. Away. But there are certain attacks that you can actually use your wound attack on the monster and it will topple them in the middle of their big wind-up attacks. Finally, got our axe mode back. We didn't do the long version of it because we didn't have time to. Using the power of our steering. That's just a little swipe, so I'm not going to worry about it. I am going to worry about this because it's a big attack. Use my morph slash to get me closer. Damn, not close enough. Nice. Swap to my shield. I feel like a big attack is happening. Okay, he... Need to keep rolling. Come in. Buzzsaw again, not worrying too much about where we're hitting on the monster. Go for the wound. Oh my God, he fires back a little bit after some of those wound pops. A cool mechanic. I like the fact that he's so mad that even when you pop his wound, he still attacks you. Let's go ahead and block that. Prank ourselves. Actually, after a block, we can follow it up with that. We got a second knockout. Make sure we're holding their button down. Nice, and that's the hunt. Well, I hope you've all enjoyed. I had fun. I love this game, man. It is so much fun. It makes me laugh. It makes me smile, cry. This game is very close to me. But I hope you've all enjoyed this demonstration of the weapon. And with the things that we have gone over and learned, that you can take all this information and create your own game plan and find your own play style of the Charge Blade and really discover skill expression and just do your own thing. Because I feel like that's the beauty of this game. There's a lot of opportunities to make different play styles and handle the weapon in a different way. And I want that for more people because I feel like when you find that groove, the little special interactions that you can do and all sorts of things like that, it really makes you unique as a hunter and you stand out, which I think is fun. It's fun standing out. It's fun having weird play styles that work and people notice it and they go, whoa, I've never seen anyone do that for the entire hunt. And it worked. And we can't discover that without learning everything that the weapon has to offer. So if I missed anything about this weapon or you have some tips or fun things that you'd like to do with the weapon, leave a comment down below. And with that, I hope you had a good day. And if you liked this video, like it. It's free. Come on, give me a like. Just kidding. Well, just wanted to make sure, checking my thoughts here. Didn't forget anything huge. I don't think so. So, again, I hope you have a great day. It's an awkward ending. I feel like I've repeated myself. Well, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.